I thought it would be just another late-night study session before a crucial exam. One of those quiet, exhausting evenings where coffee goes cold, notes blur together, and you tell yourself to just push through. But when my classmate knocked on my door that night, I had no idea that a few silent hours with open books would quietly reshape how I saw myself, and how I saw him, forever. Greetings, dear listeners. Before I begin sharing this deeply personal chapter of my life, please take a moment to support our channel. Subscribe, leave a like, and tell us in the comments which city you're listening from. Your support truly matters to us. Now let me begin. My name is Lena, and I was 19 years old when Ethan helped me study on an evening that still returns to my thoughts more often than I ever expected. At the time, I would have told you my biggest concern was passing my final exams. I didn't realize something far more meaningful was waiting quietly between the lines of my notes. It was early autumn, the kind of evening where daylight slips away faster than you want it to. Outside my small apartment window, the sky had already faded into a soft gray blue, and the streetlights below flickered on one by one. My desk was a mess. Textbooks stacked unevenly, loose pages covered in half-erased notes, concepts that made less sense the longer I stared at them. I'd been studying for hours, but nothing was sticking. When my phone buzzed, I almost ignored it. Then I saw Ethan's name. Still studying. I finished early. Want some help? Ethan was my classmate. Quiet. Observant. The kind of person who listened more than he spoke. I hesitated before replying. Part pride, part exhaustion. Yeah, I typed back. That would actually help. He arrived about 20 minutes later. His knock was soft but certain. When I opened the door, he stood there holding a notebook and wearing a slightly nervous smile. Hope this isn't weird, he said. I'm really glad you came, I replied. Once inside, the apartment felt smaller but warmer. We sat at the table, the overhead light casting gentle shadows across our notes. So, he asked, where do you want to start? Honestly, I sighed. Anywhere. I feel stuck. He nodded. That's more common than you think. We began slowly. He explained things clearly, patiently. When I got something wrong, he didn't rush or correct me sharply. He waited, guiding me gently back. Without noticing, the tension I'd carried all day began to fade. Outside, the city softened. Inside, there was only paper, pencils, and his calm voice. You're smarter than you think, he said at one point. I laughed quietly. It really doesn't feel like it. That's usually how it is, he replied. The people who worry the most are the ones who care. That sentence stayed with me. As the evening went on, studying turned into conversation. About school. About the future. About how uncertain everything feels at 19. There was comfort in it. No pressure. No expectations. I realized I hadn't checked the clock in a long time. That night wasn't dramatic. No confessions. No big moments. Just two people sitting across from each other, quietly understanding one another. And I had a feeling. This evening would stay with me longer than any exam ever could. We went back to studying, but the tone had changed. Felt more focused. More present. When I answered correctly, he smiled like it mattered. When I stumbled, he waited, letting me find my way instead of rushing in. At some point I laughed at a silly mistake, and he laughed too. Felt light. Genuine. I never thought studying could feel like this, I admitted. How does it feel? He asked. Less lonely, I said. He met my eyes briefly, then looked back at his notes. Yeah, he said quietly. I get that. Hours passed without either of us noticing. The exam no longer felt like an impossible wall, but a challenge I could face. As the night deepened, something clicked. Ethan hadn't just helped me understand the material. He had helped me feel capable again. Respected. Sitting there surrounded by open books and soft light, I felt a quiet shift inside myself. A growing confidence, a reminder that asking for help wasn't weakness. It was part of learning who you are. By the time we reached the final section, the city outside had gone nearly silent. The room felt warm, not from the heater, but from the hours we'd spent there together. "You covered a lot tonight," he said, stretching. "How are you feeling?" I checked in with myself. "Tired," I admitted. "But clearer. Like the noise finally quieted down. That's usually a good sign." I gathered my papers into a neat stack, something I hadn't bothered doing earlier. Even that felt like progress. "I don't usually let people see me like this," I said. "Stressed? Unsure?" He looked at me, attentive but not intrusive. "Why not? I'm usually the one who has it together. If I admit I'm struggling, it feels like I'm disappointing people." He thought for a moment. "A lot of us think strength means silence. Especially when we're young." I nodded, surprised by how understood I felt. "When I first started college," he added, "I was overwhelmed all the time. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to look like I didn't belong. Turns out almost everyone felt the same way." I laughed softly. "That's kind of comforting." "It is," he said. "Means you're not alone." We sat in a comfortable silence. Then I said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For being patient. For not making me feel small." His expression softened. "You were never small, Lena. You just needed space to see yourself clearly." That sentence stayed with me. We closed our books almost at the same time. The sound echoed softly, marking the end of something. Not just the study session, but the version of myself that had walked into that evening feeling alone. "I should head out," he said. "Big day tomorrow." I nodded, even though part of me didn't want the night to end. At the door, cooler hallway air drifted in. "Good luck tomorrow," he said. "You're going to do fine." I met his eyes and believed him. After he left, I leaned against the door for a moment. The apartment felt quiet again, but not empty. The next morning arrived more gently than expected. Pale sunlight spilled across my desk, landing on the neatly stacked books from the night before. For once, exam day didn't feel like a storm in my chest. I walked to campus calmer, steadier. In the exam hall, I remembered Ethan's voice. His patience. His trust. When panic tried to rise, I breathed and kept going. And when I walked out, I felt proud. Not because I knew the result, but because I had shown up. That evening, sitting alone at the same table, I realized something important. What stayed with me wasn't the exam. It was the way someone had shown up without trying to fix me. The way being seen had made me stronger. That quiet evening taught me something I carry to this day. Asking for help isn't failure. It's trust. And trust, yourself and others, is where growth begins. Stay tuned for more from Secret Woman Stories.